My research question is how analyzing and visualizing soft power as a political tool in China's current political strategy as to understand its potentials to transform the collective consciousness and ideologies of others. Key terms: soft power. In politics, soft power is the ability to attract and co-opt. The currency of soft power includes culture, political values, and foreign policies. In another way, it could be described as a non-coercive, long-term influences to shape the preference of others through appeal and attraction. Recent years, the global influence of soft power has become more prominent in China's development and diplomacy. My previous question was reflecting on the escalating social division and current racism discrimination during the global pandemic. After several case studies analyzed the reasons and variables that affect the differential cognition and collage in racism incidents, I found majority of these factors were related to the higher levels issue, political power. That prompted me to look at the political manipulation in the next step to observe how it affects the understanding of differences among races. So in my first experiment, I chose two racism incidents. One is killing of George Floyd in US. One is the debating of Chinese Xinjiang re-education camps. With quoted different countries' media report and photos, my intention was to identify the different political narratives exist in the same racism incident and reflect on the divided position brought about the narrative differences. When open or fold the paper in different ways, the opposite voice of tone and the class gap among power and minorities became too alterated and reconfigured. This approach arose my further inquiries. With those questions, my second practice focused on propaganda in a national context and how those political images represent in our daily life. Through collecting a month-based front page from Chinese and UK's newspaper, I compared the times that president name appeared in the title of the two to identify power manipulations. On Chinese media, the president's name appears 79 times, and most of them are about political achievement, while the same figure were 9 times in UK's media. I was interested in one day's front page. It was the day that China and Myanmar established the Belt and Road relationship. The president's name appeared in 7 titles. I was also interested in the character's posture and the symbolized in it. The position of President Xi was always higher than others. So the experiment extracted the image of the report to surface the purpose of the information dominant and promoting the superiority, which made minorities more weakened and marginalized in the picture. This constructing landscape are the other major images that occupy the front page. The structure of those pictures are mostly linear, arrow, and radial. This conveys the symbols of gather culture, expansion, and direction. It also represents the blue working class in Chinese culture, and the blue promised developing future. Through this experiment, I reflected on the socialist propaganda and how it could strengthen the sense of nationality and collective consciousness. The discovery and process of the environment let me really engage with my materials. Also shift my question to current version, to turn the focus to the country I live, to look at the political power under a socialist system. Based on China's rapid economic growth and the expansion of international influence, I choose to observing political strategies in recent years to learn the influence of soft power. At this step, I have mainly focused on one case, the One Belt One Road initiative, a large-scale investing plan to other countries, which also remain many global debates, such as the unipolar decision-making among leadership, marginalization of local residents, environmental problems, economic pressure to minority countries, also bring with grand and long-term projects. So I want to find how these plans change the landscape in the minority countries. At this step, I was referring to Joe Cinema's film Framing Terrorists. I consider to look at the geographic change in local influence by large-scale infrastructure plans. I also inspired by Nine Eyes project. I refer the method to use digital maps to observe the geographical facts of these regions. So in my third experiment, I collected the rendering image of several projects, combined the images on digital map to further explore the local geography surrounding those projects. These primitive images are usually produced by locals, which would truly recall the status quo of the place. By overlapping the gorgeous renders with local realities, I reflected on the alienation and gap between local geography and the large-scale infrastructure plan, whether these bring opportunities or further difficulties to the local area. The retrieval of this peripheral image is in contrast to the vision of a beautiful landscape. My first experiment was reflecting on the lack of transparency in this investing project. The decision-making of these projects often exists only in the leadership. Therefore, it is hard for local residents to access to the purpose of this project and what will going on in their life. I collect 10 areas physical shift due to the investing plans, extract the shape of those infrastructure and print it on transparent paper. With flipping the slide, it could show how this power shifts the local area. Through this support, I critique that those key parts of this grand project are usually invisible to most locals. I also compared the infrastructure in the same scale, reflecting on the empty meanings of some large projects, and also consider some small projects that could generate huge resources from locals, may could lead to further influences to its environment. Reflections. Due to the unclear focus of my initial version of a research question, I lacked some time for in-depth thinking and exploration of the current one. But through this method in action progress, I also gained useful methodologies for myself, so I could continuously adjust and deepen my research. Plans. In the next few weeks, I will keep studying soft power in a socialist and historical context, and analyzing the original associations of the term soft and power. Look for the possibility of this connection with China's political strategy and national brand. Furthermore, I will looking at more fields relating to my research and gaining deeper insight from lectures. Thanks for watching and looking forward to your advice.